Chairman of MLR Agroforestry, and I'm going to kind of tell you our story about the Teak and Cacao project that we've developed in Nicaragua. The project's in Nicaragua, and we've developed this over the last few years. Really, this current project started in 2010, and it's like I say, it's a Teak Cacao project. We have about 5,000 hectares in Nicaragua, of which about 2,900 are planted. And of that 2,900, we have about 1,900 in teak and about 1,000 in cacao. We use the teak as a shade tree for the cacao. Like I said, we've been doing this since 2010. The project's been fully funded through myself and my two partners. We've put in about $40 million, and we have a loan with FMO and FinFund for another $20 million. We've done our carbon credits, which seems to be a very popular issue at this conference. We have 1.1 million tons of verified carbon credits, but the numbers are a little bit off on the areas planted. That's all. It's more like almost 3,000 hectares planted. The reason why it's off is because we plant teak ahead of planting the cacao. So those acres, those hectares that we planted with teak that are ready for, that are going to be planted with cacao aren't counted here. That's what the difference is. Okay. But the 1.1 million tons of CO2, the funding of the project, the IFC standards. This is again why Nicaragua. I talked about most of these things. Yeah, see, it says 20 years experience, and it's more like almost 30. So, and then in Nicaragua, favorable soil conditions, climate conditions. There's the income tax, 50% reduction on the taxes. There you go. This is the current status. Again, these areas planted aren't quite correct. But again, we own the land. This is a location in Nicaragua. Again, it's in the autonomous zone in the northeast. What else is important here? Again, the certifications that we have, and the 25% of the conservation area. Next slide. In our called it expansion plan, this is the plantings that we'll do going forward, and it's during the next 2022 and 2023, we'll do 474 hectares of teak, and then going forward, when we get to 2030, then it's basically sustainable. You plant 163 hectares a year, and you cut 163 hectares per year. Okay. Yep. Yes, we saw it. No, we're not manufacturing. We're just sawing dimension lumber.
Okay, so then you have just logs.
No. Well, we had the logs but we saw the logs. Here, you'll see a picture here in a minute.
What year do you start harvesting the teak?
Okay, so you harvest at different periods. The final harvest now that what we found with our teak is that we can do the final harvest in year 16. Originally, the plan was it would be year 20, but we've developed a clone and we're able to cut sooner. You do thinnings in I think it's year 5, year 9 as well, and those are the things that we're cutting now and selling. Can you go to the next slide? Oh, is that right? Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the environmental plan. That doesn't seem right, though. We seem to have skipped some things, but that's okay. Okay, so anyway, in the environmental plan, we have a biodiversity management plan. We're constantly mining the flora and fauna. We monitor the air quality and water quality. We have a wastewater management plan. I mean, we pretty much have everything in the environmental plan you can imagine as required. Socially responsible. This is one of the things that I'm more enthused about in dealing with the local communities and relationships that we have with indigenous areas that that we have in the area. We have one local indigenous group that we've donated some land to. We have a system where if there's a complaint, they can contact us. And we give economic support to the community that I talked about before. Teak, this is, okay, so this was the planning schedule that we've done up through 2021, and I guarantee you the next slide's going to be wrong. No, it's
Monocultivation, entirely monocultivation, and then you're.
no, you have, remember, you got the teak and you got the cacao.
Right, but the cacao you do later. So you first plant the teak.
First plant the teak, you have to let it established for like 2 years so you have the shade.
Right.
Right.
So cacao will only survive under teak.
You got to have some, you got to have
Okay.
some shade for the cacao.
Okay.
Okay, so then, but with the, I'll go forward a little bit and show you. Okay, so with the cacao, here's the cacao and the teak, right? So in this area, you plant 1,300 cacao plants, right? And you have 157 teak plants providing shade. But then you trim, you cut those trees over time to reduce the shade. So in year 5, you cut 37 trees. Year 9, you cut 45 trees. Year 18, you cut the balance of the trees at full maturity. At that point, then the cacao plants are strong enough they don't need the shade. Okay?
So they only need shade. So a cacao tree needs a shade until how long?
Well, in this case, 18 years.
Oh, okay. So the cacao tree actually is.
But so it's kind of up in the question whether at some point will we plant more trees within the cacao. I don't know the answer to that question yet. Okay? I mean, if you look at cacao traditionally, you'll find these plants in like a rainforest setting. You know, there's more or less a canopy around. Okay, so we're trying to recreate that here. But what I'm told is that at year 18 they'll survive without the shade. Okay. Now, if I go back to I can only go back so far. Can I go back a few more slides? Okay, that's good. That's good. Let me go forward. Okay, so this shows what plantings we'll do going forward, the land that we'll purchase. But eventually, between 2027 and 2030, we will basically it'll just be sustainable. You'll harvest your cacao, the 1,300 hectares, you'll make about 2,100 tons of cacao, and then you'll harvest and replant 163 hectares of teak that are fully mature at that point, okay? And again, this was the cacao. We've got about 900 hectares planted. We're going to go to 1,300. This is the guys in the cacao. There's a cacao pod. Here are the guys working in the plant. This actually, the cacao we do in a tax-free zone for the processing. And then the cacao goes to Ritter Sport here in Europe. And then we just talked about this slide.
Can I ask another question? So
Absolutely.
you basically your cacao, you semi-process it. You don't make it in chocolate.
No. We just process the beans.
Okay.
You have to ferment. You have to ferment the beans.
So your teak you semi-process, and your
Yep.
cacao you semi-process.
I
Why
guess
are you
that's-
not doing the entire value chain?
One thing at a time. Well, at least we got the trees to grow and we got the chocolate to grow. You know. I don't know that we would ever do further down process on the cacao. On the cacao, we looked at that, and there are some small chocolate producers in Nicaragua, and we can take our beans and make chocolate, but then you have to market the chocolate.
No, but what you do is you get into bed with somebody who can market it for you.
I know.
And then you make all this money
I'll
because
tell you
honestly,
what.
semi-processing, you're only making.
I'll sell you the project, and you can do that. And you can build
I have
it.
dinner with the FMO on Friday. I just was curious.
And you can also process the teak. I agree with you. We should process the teak further along. I agree. We should we should move up the value chain. But again, it takes time. I mean, at least we're not shipping logs. We are cutting the wood. We're not drying it yet. But I agree. It would be nice if we And we do sell some to local furniture makers, okay? It's not like all the wood gets shipped out. But I agree, I would like to be able to, at one point, make a higher value product.
Price value between
Absolutely.
price is enormous.
I
It's
agree.
like $25,000 versus nothing. So I think you really need to look at somehow getting
I
FMO to
agree.
finance your upscaling
I
of your
agree.
factory.
I agree. Maybe you want to do that.
I go and talk to them on Friday.
Okay, then one of the things. One of the things that seems to be a big topic here are these carbon credits, and I don't know why we used the picture of charcoal, but we did. We did. Anyway, we are now. We do make charcoal with the waste wood, okay? So we try not to, and then all the.
You can supply that to the local community.
Exactly, we do that. We do that. We do that, and it's very good. And then we also, it keeps going forward, and we also use all the waste wood goes to the sugar mills to burn in to generate power. Okay, so we use everything, almost. Okay, so these are the carbon credits that we have. We just got this finished, and it's call it 1.1 million tons over 40 years. Okay.
So you're registering the credits for trees that you're eventually going to harvest?
That's the way it works, I understand.
Not necessarily.
Well, okay, I don't. We don't have the carbon credit guy personally here to explain all this, but we do have verifiable carbon credits, okay? Trust me. Next slide. Financial review. This doesn't want to come up, does it? There we go. There we go. Anyway, the shareholders have put in actually 39 million. Oh yeah, with the two together, 39 million. And then we have 20 million with FMO and Fin Fund. We pay them a 2% interest. We accrue 3%, and then by 2027 we have to start paying them back. And they get an uptick on the value of the project equal to 90% of our rate of return, up to a maximum of 15%. A little bit convoluted, but that's what we finally, at the end, negotiated. And there's some sawed wood. See, that's what we ship. You like that?
I'd like you to do better than that.
Right. I'm gonna make you a desk. Okay. Anyway, any other questions before we go to coffee break?
Yes. Sorry. Here.
Yeah.
I already got a microphone.
Already.
I have actually two questions. So Nicaragua has a specific historical political system.
Absolutely.
Is that kind of for implementation of such a project? Is that of a favor, or was it kind of an obstacle? And
Political situation?
yeah, the political situation.
No, for this type of project, no.
Okay.
No, it's too long-term of an investment, so it's looked on very favorably with the government.
Okay. What was the land use before you entered the area?
Cattle grazing. Yeah.
Randy, this is great. I'm curious how your process went for you from being kind of a personal and friendly investor base into bringing in FMO and Fin Fund, which is really difficult, and you have to meet really high bars for that environmental and social management.
Tell me about it.
I saw you had the 8 performance standards. I wonder if you could just share what that process was like for you a little bit, and
Painful?
what helped make it be successful. How'd you get through it? Because, I mean, there are specialists in this room who'll spend months preparing a company to get ready for
Right.
it. And so to come from a very different background, I think it's really impressive that you could get that
Right.
funding. It means you're doing a lot of things right.
Yeah, I think, we have a lot of experience dealing with, we used to run public companies, so we have a lot of experience in making sure that our data is really good, right? So the company acts like a public company, okay? So we have audited financials, we have a whole legal department, so we think like a public company. So that helps a lot. So our data is really in good shape. And then it was just, 2 years of working with FMO and Fin Fund. We started with Fin Fund, and Fin Fund brought in FMO, but it was really just patience and pain. So, but we got it done. The what? There you go. There you go. So, no, but it. 2 years, like 2 years. Yeah, from when we first talked to them to when we actually got some some money. And we were financially capable to sustain ourselves, so it wasn't like we were dying or anything. We were fine. Question?
Hi, Randy. Thanks for that. I was interested to understand a bit more about the breakdown of where the value was for you between, say, the carbon credits, sale of cacao, etc.,
Right.
and how that
Right.
looks.
Well, okay. First off, it was really painful to try to get my guys even interested in calculating the carbon credits, right? So, for the first few years, they had no interest. They thought it was bullshit, right? But then we kind of forced them to do it. So, in the original financial model, the carbon credits had nothing to do with anything. It was all based on, and the reason we brought the cacao in was since it's a 5-year maturity, we could bump cash flow quicker with the cacao than the teak. So, you know, it was, remember, we started this project as a part of a mining company, so it really wasn't done for profit originally. It was just done because we had to do something with the land, and we didn't want to just not plant, you know, anything like we had in the past. So we organized it as a professional forestry operation. And then as we sold the mine in 2013, it developed into a real forestry company. It became more important to us, obviously. We've invested a lot of money into it. So does that sort of answer your question? Sort of?
Yeah. So is the main value left over, is that in the sale of cacao? Is that
I think
two-thirds of the value?
cacao is like 20% of revenues going
Right.
forward. Because going forward at the end, we're like at, I think, $24 million in revenue with 40 cubic meters of teak and 2,100 tons of cacao. And we get a premium on the cacao because of all the certifications. So you figure at 2,100 tons, we'll get about $3,000 a ton at current prices with our premium. And I'd have to calculate what we get per cubic meter because I always think in board feet for the wood. But I'm told it's like 80-20. 80% is teak revenue, 20% is cacao revenue.
And is the carbon credit a kind of afterthought, like a rounding error, or is that still a meaningful part of the?
No, it's a
business?
meaningful. It's definitely a meaningful thing because it forwards your cash flow a bit. And you know, the teak actually, when I'm told, benefit greatly from the cacao because we fertilize the cacao and they're in the same mix there. So there's a benefit to the teak trees from the cacao plants being in there. So, yes.
So just about your choice of teak, obviously appreciate teak's a great tree and high value species, but have you considered any other native timbers as well?
Yes, mahogany. So I made the guys plant like, I think about 5,000 mahogany trees. So when I'm dead 40 years from now, my grandchildren can have 40, you know, the 5,000 mahogany trees. So yeah, we did plant those. And we've looked at, we actually did a little bit of experimentation with vanilla too. So we do try to look at different things and experiment, yeah.
Just one more question.
Yeah.
It sounded like a lot of the lands you were buying up were probably quite degraded from ranching,
Yes.
etc. Are you able to talk a little bit about the sort of soil restoration and fertilization piece?
Not really. Not really. Well, okay, let me see. There's a picture of the facilities. Let's see if we have any. No, we don't have any pictures here. Well, the way we do it is, you know, you have to rip the land because it's been compacted from the cattle grazing, right? So you rip it, and we would take soil samples to determine what kind of fertilizer we have to put in. But that's really about it. Just ripping the land and then preparing it for planting. There's no clearing to really do because it's all former pasture land. So it's really just ripping it to get rid of the compaction and whatever fertilization requirements there are for that particular area. Yeah.
Can I say something to you?
Absolutely. I love your questions. I think you should be part of the company.
Listen, soil carbon, right? So if you're doing soil testing.
Yep.
Yeah, and you do your pH values and your whatever, and you look at your organic thing,
Yeah.
you should also consider soil carbon, because you could actually make as much money as you're doing on
Okay,
your
what do you
carbon
mean
credit.
soil carbon?
There is carbon credits from soil.
Okay.
You get it? You know, a tree basically
No, but we get the credits for
Oh, you
the
get this
roots.
credit from
Yeah, for the roots.
No, but the soil, actually
Okay, I
what
didn't
you're
get the
doing
runs for the
with.
soil. I have to go back.
I can join your company. I
Okay,
think
you
I'll
show me how
help
to do
you.
that. Question.
I was just going to ask, what happened to the cattle ranchers? I was going to ask what happened to the cattle ranchers, where
Yeah.
they just
Well,
went to
some
other
some of them
forestry
are
land?
old and ready to get out of the business. Others bought other farms. But again, what we did was when we bought a ranch, or remember a lot of these were just laying fallow. There wasn't anything going on. So, but the ones that wanted to continue bought other farms. So. No, and we have to make sure there's no negative impact for the people that we buy the land from. We have to make sure that they're not going to go out and waste the money away.
Did you look at the teak market? I mean, I went to some conference years ago.
Yeah.
They were talking about teak for yachts and really high value 40-year-old. Did you look at that?
Not really. I mean, what the market that drives teak is the market in India. So that's where 90% of the teak in the world goes to. Comment?
You're shipping from Nicaragua to India?
Yep.
Then you and I will talk to each other.
25
Lots of teak in
25 containers a month right now. Yeah, and we actually can get containers too. I don't know how, but we do it. So, but the cacao goes to Germany. Mainly because there's another cacao producer from Germany in Nicaragua, and they buy our because they're already there, they buy our supply. So, okay, what time is it?
Well, we're 5 minutes
we're
over
late.
now, but honestly, I think everybody here is really having a good time, so we can just stay for the coffee break, right? We'll get them to bring in cakes like yesterday, so.
Okay, well, thanks, everybody.